from Tiju's Academy Tiruvalla, going live in this session for the IELTS speaking session. Hope you guys are all doing good, and let's wait for our regular candidates or regular students to join in. Okay, so today we'll be talking or speaking about the part 3, that's part 3 section, the follow-up section. So it's IELTS speaking part 3. It's all about part 3 or section 3. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, Johnny. Hope you're doing good. Okay, so what is so once we have finished our part 1, that's the warm-up session, and then we go around with the part 2 or the cue card session. We then move over to section 3, that's the follow-up section, right? So എന്താണ് ഈ follow-up section and how does it go about the format-ഉം കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്, we'll discuss in this live session. So നമ്മൾ first, as we discussed, let's go ahead and see what it is all about, the format, right? So it's a discussion with the examiner. Usually it lasts for 4 to 5 minutes. So നമ്മളുടെ cue card ഉണ്ടാക്കി കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് once we prepare a cue card and we speak on it for 2 minutes. After that, we start with the part 3, that is the follow-up, right? And it's usually for 4 to 5 minutes. 4 to 5 minutes vare samayana to go about the follow-up, right? So let's see what is it. In part 3, the examiner will ask a range of questions based on the topic you had in part 2. That means part 2 il namakku kittiya cue card alle, the cue card that we got or the task card namakku kitti, we prepared it, we had 1 minute of preparation time and then 2 minutes for speaking on it, right? So the questions will be based on that cue card or task card, right? So he or she is going to ask you a wide range of questions based on the topic card you had in part 2, right? So here, the questions require you to expand your answers further with explanation in general. എന്താണ് അതിൻ്റെ meaning? What does it mean, right? നമ്മൾ warm-up questions, if you remember, നമ്മൾ warm-up ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ, right? Warm-up is all about personal questions, right? അത് നമ്മളോട് personal questions ആയിരിക്കും, your likes and your dislikes, പഠിച്ചോ, what were you studying, and what kind of things you like, you don't like, അങ്ങനത്തെ questions ആയിരുന്നു, right? And they were all personal questions, and you need to answer those questions in, say, 2 or 3 sentences. That's enough. 2-3 sentences nammal warm-up il samsari parayumbo, that's more than enough, right? But when it comes to the follow-up, right, you have to give a little more detail. Ichruda detail namukku samsarikkanam. You have to give the explanation in general, not personal. Personal aitalla nammal avade parayandi samsarikkendi. You have to give explanations in general, but make sure you expand your answers. Warm-up il nammal endayirunnu cheyida 2 to 3 sentences paranjittu we used to stop. Nammal avade nikkuyayirunnu. But here in the follow-up, you need to make sure that you speak at least 3 to 4 sentences, right? 3 to 4 sentences in detail. It should expand it. If the examiner is going to ask you a question, is asked a question to you, or a question choichittondengi, make sure you answer those questions in at least 3 to 4 or 5 sentences, right? It should be longer than your warm-up answers. Warm-up il nammal 2 to 3 sentences paranjittu nammal nirthuvayirunnu. But make sure in your follow-up round, nammalle moonamathe partil, in the follow-up round, make sure that you give the answers in detail. Detail aayittu nammal idinte answer kodukkanam. That means be ready to answer at least 3 to 4 sentences minimum, right? That is what you have to do in the part 3 or the follow-up session. That is the last part of your speech. So IELTS il nammal aadhyam discuss ചെയ്ത പോലെ ആദ്യത്തെ ഒരു സെഷൻ ഉണ്ട്, part A1, part 2 and part 3, or session 1, session 2. So first one was the warm-up, that is 4 to 5, and then you go on with the second part, that is the cue card, where you have 1 minute of preparation and 2 minutes of speaking, right? Adu kazhinjittu when we move over to the last one, that is The part 3, ഇവിടെ it's usually 4 to 5 minutes and you will be asked to speak about the topic. The cue card kittiya top question ആയിരുന്നു. That these questions will be related to that cue card, right? So you have to make sure that you expand your answers. At least 3 to 4 or 5 sentences നമ്മൾ അവിടെ പറയണം, right? And you have to speak in general. That is what is all about the part 3 or the follow-up questions in the answer നമ്മൾ എങ്ങനെയാ ചെയ്യേണ്ടി, right? Let's move ahead. നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോയിട്ട് നോക്കാം ഇനി, right? So speak about the topics in general, right? In part 3, you are expected to discuss all questions in a general manner, right? As I mentioned before, നമ്മൾ warm-up-ൽ 2 to 3 sentences പറയായിരുന്നു and all the questions were related to you in personal, your likes, your dislikes, what you do and what you don't do, right? അങ്ങനെ. പക്ഷേ ഇവിടെ the cue card that you got, the topic card കിട്ടിയ ആ topic cardന് ചേർന്ന് questions വരുമായിരിക്കും ഇവിടെ, something related to that topic or the cue card. But here you cannot answer in a personal way, right? These questions, the answers you have to answer in a general manner and you have to expand it, right? You have to expand it, right? At least 3 to 4 or 5 sentences നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കണം. If not, the examiner is going to ask you why, right? He or she നമ്മളോട് ഇച്ചിരൂടെ questions അറിയാൻ വേണ്ടി ചോദിക്കും, what do you feel, tell me a little more about what you feel about this question, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇച്ചിരൂടെ expand ചെയ്തിട്ട് പറയാൻ പറ്റുമോ, അങ്ങനെ നമ്മളോട് questions വരും. So it's always good, make sure that you answer at least 3, 4 or 5 sentences in your follow-up questions answer round, right? And this is your chance to show the examiner that you can discuss general topics. അതിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം പറഞ്ഞാൽ this is your chance to show the examiner that you can discuss general topics. For നമ്മൾ വാം-അപ്പിൽ എന്തായിരുന്നു ചെയ്തത്? In the warm-up session we were talking, the questions that were asked or the questions that were directed to you was all personal questions, right? പക്ഷേ at the same time here you will have to answer all this in a general way. You have to show the examiner you can discuss or talk about these questions in a general topic answer way, right? You have to give your ideas, your opinions on what is being discussed or asked to you, right? So avade questions varumbo, ivade questions varumbo, you have to give your ideas and opinions on what is being discussed. Yes, Anurag, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Gagana, good afternoon. Hope you're doing good. Jisha, good afternoon. Good afternoon. So as we were discussing, Jisha, Gagana, Anurag, so നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന പാർട്ട് 3 ആണ്. സോ ലെറ്റ്സ് ജസ്റ്റ് ഗോ ബാക്ക് ഫോർ യു ഗൈസ്. ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓൾ അബൌട്ട് പാർട്ട് 3 ഓർ സെക്ഷൻ 3. ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ എന്താ ഇന്ന് ചെയ്യുന്നത്? വാം-അപ്പ് കഴിഞ്ഞു, പാർട്ട് 1 കഴിഞ്ഞു, ദാറ്റ്സ് വാം-അപ്പ്. പാർട്ട് 2 was the cue card or the task card session where you get 1 minute of preparation time and 2 minutes of speak. You have to speak on that topic that you got, right? And now in part 3, that's the follow-up section. Each section, in this part 3, you have to answer questions that will be directed to you by the examiner or given to you, asked by the examiner in a expanded way. Whereas Jisha ke vendi aanadu, this is for Jisha, right? Where in your warm-up you used to say give answers in 2 to 3 sentences. ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ at least 3, 4 or 5 sentence answer കൊടുക്കണം. You have to expand your answers and make sure you're not giving answers in a personal way, but you give answers in general, right? So what does it say? So it's here you have to discuss general topics, giving your ideas, opinions on what is being discussed, right? ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ അങ്ങനെയാ സംസാരിക്കേണ്ടിയത്. And make sure when you're speaking here, make sure you expand your answers and make sure that when you expand your answers, make sure you have used good English. Good English in the sense, നമ്മളുടെ vocabulary നല്ലതായിരിക്കണം, grammar നല്ലതായിരിക്കണം, sentence structuring and delivery should be good, right? Because that's where your weightage is. നമ്മളുടെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ in the warm up, when you start with the warm up, what happens is the examiner, he or she starts judging you. നിങ്ങളെ ജഡ്ജ് ചെയ്യാനാ തുടങ്ങുന്നത്, right? So judge ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങി കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് and then what happens is once you finish your warm up session തീർന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട്, the moment the warm up session is over, right, then you go over to your second part 2, that is your Q session or the task card session, and then you speak. That's when he or she, the examiner, starts giving your band scores, അവിടെയാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ബാൻഡ് സ്കോർസ് കിട്ടാൻ തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. Right. So the part 2 and the part 3 is where you really need to show, right? That's, it says here, this is your chance to show the examiner that you can discuss general topics as well. Right? Personal topics നമ്മൾ already warm up il discuss ചെയ്തു, but ഇവിടെ is the time that you can really shine with your vocabulary, with all your good grammar, your sentence structuring and delivery. Right? And then you make sure that you expand your answers, at least 3, 4 or 5 sentences നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ പറയുക. Right? So let's go ahead and see what we need to do. Be ready to extend your answers, right? Because there are many times nammade ivide Tiju's Academy Tiruvalla nammale when we do the one-on-one sessions, right? What happens is the candidates or the students don't get much ideas. Avarku thaleyil athra ideas varathilla. They don't get ideas immediately because these are all general questions. Personal aanengi, like warm up ilokke aanengi, you can easily answer questions. You can easily answer whatever is asked you because you relate it to yourself and you can answer your likes, your dislikes, what you do and what you don't do. പക്ഷേ when it comes to the follow-up, it's a wider range of questions that is being asked to you and it's all general questions. നമ്മൾ ബാക്കിൽ പോയി നോക്കാം, it will be your ideas. അതിനകത്ത് ഇവിടെ നിങ്ങളുടെ ideas and opinions ആയിരിക്കും നിങ്ങളുടെ ചോദിക്കുന്നത്, right? So what happens is most of my candidates or the candidates don't get the question kittiyalum they're not able to answer it in 3 or 4 sentences answer cheyan pattathilla. So make sure whenever you are at home or wherever you are practicing, follow up il nalla importance kodukanam because warm up is very easy. Adu rando 3 sentences, 2 or 3 sentences and you're done. But in the follow up, make sure you practice a lot at home or wherever you're practicing. Nalla pole practice cheyana. Make sure the more sentences you answer, the better for you. And right, നമ്മൾ വീട്ടിൽ പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ whenever you're practicing, make sure you answer whenever you're given asked a follow-up questions or follow-up questions നമ്മൾ നോക്കി വായിക്കുക and when you want to give an answer, make sure you expand it. കുറേ ideas generate ചെയ്യാൻ നോക്കണം and then give your answers. Right. Then use linking words and phrases. Adenda, what does that mean? Use linking words and phrases. Right? Make sure the words that you're using, the word, നമ്മൾ ഒരു സെൻറ്റൻസ് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് അടുത്ത സെൻറ്റൻസിലോട്ട് പോവുക അല്ലെങ്കിൽ we are switching over from one sentence and moving over to the other sentence, right? Make sure, right? Fillers use CLA, right? We use a lot of fillers because you are being asked a general question and you're not sure how to answer that. Engine the answer you're not sure. So we practice linking words and phrases practice. Make sure you practice linking words and phrases because fillers varum and there are some candidates or some students who like to use so, like, angane because they are not getting ideas or they are not getting words or opinion parayan namakku buddhimuttu varumbo, what they do is they are trying to use fillers varumbo endo linking words nammal miss cheyidittu fillers edum. So it doesn't sound good because that's where the weightage is. Examiner navade aayirikkum ningalku mark your band scores idandi. So make sure, because if you don't answer, they may again ask you in detail that can you give me a little more detail or can you be a little more specific, angane choikkum. Can you speak a little more or can you talk about it a little more, angane choikkum. So make sure fillers okay then nammal avadane out veli vechittu we give linking words, right? Sequencing cheyam, adding information, right? Another thing okay parangitte namakku opinions and attitude നമ്മൾ അവിടെ ആഡ് ചെയ്യുക, comparing and contrasting words യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം, similarly അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോവുക. So make sure when you're practicing at home, use lot of linking words and phrases, right? Try to give examples as well. അവിടെ നമ്മൾ ഈ the third session follow up ൽ വരുമ്പോൾ try to give examples as well. For example, like അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോവുക. So what happens is നമുക്ക് ആ 3 or 4 sentences നമുക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോകാൻ പറ്റും. Good afternoon, Achu. Good afternoon, Rajeshwari. Good afternoon. Okay, so nammal mumbotu povumbo what happens is we will be filling up that 3 to 4 or 5 sentences nammal ethanum pattum, and instead of fillers and vechittu and like and so okkenna kaalunalla linking words use cheyidittu mumbotu pova. So veeti nammal practice cheydondirikkumbo make sure that you practice it a lot. Phrases adupole use cheyan nokkanam maximum in your practice times. Make sure that you're using your phrases as well, right? And yes, idioms, okay, as I said, idioms, if you have been practicing your idioms, you can use those as well, right? But it all depends. You have to be comfortable using all this, right? Use a good grammar, nalla grammar, wide range of grammar പറയുന്നുണ്ട് ഇവിടെ, right? Make sure that you use wide range of grammar, right? Okay, Rajeshwari is asking me, sir, could you explain about linking words? Okay, so linking words endana she wanted to know, right? So today nammal basically we were discussing about the part 3. So linking words nammal engane cheyan pattum. So we use words and phrases to connect ideas and to express how we feel about what we are saying, alle adana linking words, right? We also use them to organize and manage what we are saying and to help us think about what to say using next, like fillers, using fillers correctly to sound natural in our delivery, right? Parayna kar instead of using and all the time, linking words nammal use in them. Try to avoid using meaningless fillers like and then show that you use linking words, right? And then use wide range of grammar. Grammar nammal use cheyumbo, make sure that using a wide range of grammar, right? When you're practicing in your home or practicing at home, right? Use wide range of grammar, especially describing the situation in your, for example, namakku ivide oru example edutittu cheyidu nokam. So for example, if you can keep speaking about a topic, right? This shows that you have access to a wider range of vocabulary and grammatical structure needed to express yourself. Namakku kore neram samsarikkan pattuvaanengi, this shows that you're good at a wider range of vocabulary and the grammatical structures needed to express yourself, right? So when you have to use some of the functions, right, when you have to use them, you can use them appropriate grammatical structure, right? For example, namakku oru example nokam, describing the situation in your country, right? So present, past and perfect namakku use ചെയ്തിട്ട് അവിടെ പോവാം. For example, namakku cue card il something is really asked about your country or something, and in the follow up it's being asked describing the situation in your country, namakku follow up ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ make sure that you use the present, perfect and the past, right? So what is happening or what has happened, right? ഇപ്പം നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് and what has happened, and thinking about the future, right? So future, what happens there? Future nobody will, would have, angane nammal nokkite may, might, should, could use ചെയ്തിട്ട് മുമ്പോട്ട് പോവുക, right? Thinking about the future. And also suggesting solutions, conditionals, models and verbs, right? And comparing and contrasting comparative structures നോക്കിയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോവുക. So for example, nammal idellam use cheyidittu, this is the time that you can really shine, and you can, the more you practice all these, you can go ahead and complete your follow up session in a good way. And as I mentioned before, be ready to extend your answers, use linking words and phrases, and use a wider range of grammar here, right? And make sure whenever you're practicing at home, whether you're practicing it alone or with your friend or your family member, make sure that you are using all this, right? So in the next session, what we'll do is we'll have a cue card and we'll discuss about that in the follow-ups, and make sure നമ്മൾ അടുത്ത സെഷനിൽ നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം that we can use these extended answers, linking words and phrases, and wide range of grammar, right? So for today, that's it, and this was just a basic introduction of follow-up. And in the next session, we'll go in detail and make sure how to go about the follow-up part 3. Yes, Sudesh, Sibi, Amiham and Shawnee, all of you, good afternoon, and hope this helped you. The next time we are going to see in detail how to handle part 3. So hope you guys practice a lot at home, and see you next time. Take care.